Jeff, I think we're live. And now you're muted. Should I just do the show for you then?
Okay. I'm going to double check. For anybody, if this is live, I apologize, but everything's acting weird. So
Okay, I'm under control. I got it.
I'm going to look at my Twitter real quick, and if we're live, then we're going to start the show with Dan because something's weird here.
Otherwise, we're just hanging out.
Yeah, and I've done that, Dan.
I appear to be live. I appear to be looking at myself over there. So
okay, we're good. So sorry, everybody. There was some a couple minor technical malfunctions to start the show. It was neither Dan's fault nor my fault. So here we go. This is Jeff Needs Sports. Hey, just think, anybody's listening to the audio version, you have no idea what just happened. So
right.
That's the beauty of it. So this is Jeff Needs Sports, Off the Ball Network. We're back with Dan Felton. We're doing another playoff race update. We're having a lot of fun with this. Dan ought to be in a fairly good mood this week, but we're going to find out. So again, everybody go to offtheballnetwork.com. Check out all the stuff going over there. And here we go. So Dan Felton.
Yeah.
How are you, man? Are you okay?
I'm still sort of, I think, coming down and emotionally recharging from that game, but yeah, I'm hanging in there. I think cautiously optimistic is probably where I'm sitting right now.
That was wild. So I ask a lot of fans this because you are an analyst that I bring on or whatever, but we can't hide the fact that you're a huge Los Angeles Rams.
I don't hide it. I don't hide it either.
Exactly. But you do watch the game with an analytical eye. So that's why we have so much fun with the show. But I got to ask, as a fan, how do you watch these major games like this? Like, are you in a closet watching on your phone? Do you not watch? Do you have somebody yell the scores at you while you're playing darts? What is your chosen way to watch the game?
I'm very invested. Like I'm ready to go. I'm sunk in for every single play. I can't miss anything. I can't not watch. It's a little bit of a train wreck, but it's not enjoyable. I don't really enjoy these games, and maybe it's years of not seeing my team in the playoffs that I'm not used to it, but it's not fun. I wouldn't say like I'm excited to watch them play this weekend. Like, no, it's just torture pretty much the entire time.
Dan, I'm an Ohio State fan, and we're one of the most successful teams, especially in the last 2 decades in college football. And I haven't enjoyed a game probably since I was 6. It's a sickness. It's not healthy. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Mo Murphy. But I totally get it. And for some reason, I was thinking about this today, and I was like, I think Dan and me are sort of on the same wavelength of like, it's. Okay, I'll just ask you this: how many times does somebody go, "Why do you even watch? You seem miserable." I get that so much
all the time, and I myself ask my dad, like my buddy, my best friend and my fucking A podcast co-host Matt is a Titans fan. So of course, last weekend he had a terrible weekend, and he said that to me Sunday morning. We were chatting before the Rams played. He goes, "Why do we do this?" He goes, because even when it's like the things you should enjoy, you don't enjoy them. Like it's misery 90% of the time. And then 10% of the time, you can't even enjoy it when you're supposed to be enjoying it. So why do we do this? And I ask myself that every day, every time I sit down to watch a game.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. Ohio State loses, if a bad season, we lose 2 games and it's like, all right, this isn't, I can't, this is terrible. This is awful. We need to change everything. Yeah. I've always wondered if I should just be a fan of just a terrible team. To just be like, oh, we won 5 games last year. This was great. Draft picks, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't know if that's better.
I'm nostalgic for those days of just like being at the edge of the playoffs is exciting enough for you. And then when they don't make, you're like, oh, it's okay. We did pretty good this year. Like,
yeah,
you're a Lions fan or something.
As an edging type fan. I got you. So it's, if anybody didn't get a chance to watch the Rams game, you probably don't care about the show. But if you know what happened, the Rams got off early. They looked great, looked unbeatable. And I'm sure that's when Dan knew that they were screwed. Oh, yeah. So here was my question. This was obviously my turning, or I shouldn't say the turning point, but this is when I was like, shit. How did you feel before the Akers fumble on the goal line at the end of the first half and 2 seconds after? What was that emotional swing?
I would say that was right before that fumble was probably the only time during that game where I was like, wow, this is going to be just like last week. God, we're on a tear. Look at this. 2 games in a row. We're just handing the team their ass. I can't believe how well we're playing. And when he dropped that ball and they picked it up, I thought, oh, that's it.
Yep.
Here we go. It's gonna start. It's gonna start the wheels going the other way. And it from that point on, it was like being in a car accident, except experiencing it like for 2 hours. Like you could see it coming and you can't get away from it, and you know it's gonna hurt, but you're just stuck slowly getting closer and closer. It was the most painful. I mean, I probably shaved a good 4 or 5 months off my life.
Yeah, I was
In that
gonna ask.
afternoon.
I was gonna ask. I think I've got about 16 years on you, and I think that game. I think you're starting to gain ground.
Yeah, you're gonna
That
outlast
had,
me on this.
and I've been there. That's rough. And and here's the thing. Doing this podcasting, one of the best things about it's been I've met so many fans from every team across the country, around hell,
Yeah,
around the world, other countries
yeah,
like yourself. And I'm so when my team's not any part of it, I'm so empathetic. When that happens, and I watch these games, and I'm like, and I'm just like I live vicariously through the fans, and that ball I see. They go to instant replay.
yeah,
I see the ball come out before Akers' helmet hits, and I mean, I literally was physically sick, and I'm like, why? And because you and I both know that a field goal there wins that game, and
yeah,
it turned out that was true. They won by 3. Like a field goal there ends that game. Like you just know
yeah,
it's one of those points. But I got to say this before I ask you how you felt about the second half.
yeah.
I will say that they sucked it up. Stafford did what he needed to do.
Right.
They didn't. I won't say they didn't panic, but they didn't crumble. I mean,
Yeah.
the mistakes they were they were just so big. The mistakes,
Sure. Yeah.
but it wasn't Stafford throwing the ball to the other team and blah blah blah. It was just these.
Yeah.
I mean, Cooper Cup. That the Cooper Cup fumble is. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen. It doesn't even happen.
Well, that
So
was what was driving me nuts. Is I thought, what are I need some data person to come in on this one, but like, what are the statistical odds of a team losing 4 fumbles in a half of football? Is be I don't I actually watching it. I must have said the words "I can't believe this is happening" 400 times, because at the same time I actually couldn't believe it was I
me
couldn't
neither.
I couldn't
And
remember seeing a team literally just drop the ball to the other team that many times in a row. It
And
was
they were
mind-boggling.
by far the best team doing it. That's what's weird. Like
Yeah,
we've seen that happen, but that's the Jets getting beat by 50. We've never
sure,
seen a team, because
sure.
I ask you, so it'll lead into my next question. This is what I said. I've never seen a team look so good,
Yeah,
and just those few mistakes just absolutely crush them. Because how many times have we seen a team, they're up by 21, the guy
yeah,
fumbles, but his teammate gets it back, and you're like, "Ooh, that
right.
was close." Well, now
Yeah,
we know what happens when you don't get it back. And Brady's making mistakes too. Was there 7
yeah.
turnovers in the first half, or maybe 6? Uh, like
I
Brady
can't
had a
remember.
yeah,
All a blur to me now. So
it was crazy. So then I ask you this, and I have a take when I gave it on my show last night with Mo Murphy and Thad.
right.
Was that did the Rams look great that game, or did they look terrible to you? Because I know how I
I
feel.
I think they looked really, really good. They did exactly what I said on your show last week that they needed to do, which was insist on running the ball and insist on controlling the clock. But and you're right, those weren't like boneheaded mistakes. It was just fundamental errors that again, that four lost fumbles in a football game probably never happens
No.
anywhere to anyone, especially a playoff team or a championship contending team. And it was the magnitude of each of them. Like the first one, a goal line fumble would have been 27-3 at the half, at the very
Ugh.
least 23-3. The Cup one, he fumbles it in the open field and they pick it up and get about 30 yards to start at
Yeah.
about the 25-yard line. The snap goes over Stafford's
Oh.
head, gets picked up on the other end of the field. And the last fumble, the game was over. I mean, Cam Akers was running for a first down. It would have been first down at the
It's
2-minute
done.
warning. It would have been victory formation because it would have been 2-minute warning, no timeouts for Tampa Bay. Game was over at that point. And he coughs it up going for the game-winning first down. So all four of them gave away huge field position or points,
Oh,
or
they were
like massive turnovers. So I think they looked great, but I
I
mean,
mean,
sloppy.
the emotion of, we got Von, not Von Bell, I'm sorry. Von Miller.
Von Miller. Yeah.
He goes there literally for this
Yeah.
to attack quarterbacks. He gets the forced fumble at the place. The guys go crazy. They know that's it. The game's over. In the center, snaps it over Stafford's
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
and you can see Stafford. This is the moment where I really everything that I thought about Stafford this season, I felt good about, because they snap it over his head. there's nothing they can do. Buccaneers get the ball. It's a horrible turnover. Stafford looks up and basically he's like, "What the fuck?" But he also didn't lose. He didn't lose it. He wasn't on the sidelines pouting. He was like, "Okay, I got to go back out and do it." And that's when I was like, "Okay, Stafford gets it. Like he's in the moment. He's not. It's not getting the best of him because he doesn't have a ton of playoff experience. Everybody knows. Like,
Oh God, yeah, no,
2 playoff games before this, I believe, and one with the Rams.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it in Stafford's career, and he handled it like he had been doing his whole life. I was really proud of Stafford in that moment.
Oh, so I mean, I was mesmerized by the fact that he seemed to be completely unfazed by his
Yeah.
defense. I mean, even Jalen. I mean, the 4 fumbles is one thing. The Jalen Ramsey basically dogging it for a play to get burned for a touchdown in a crucial moment. Like the one thing
Rough.
they use all their timeouts to get the ball back, and then you think, all right, what's the one thing we can't do here is you can't give up a 60-yard touchdown pass. And what happens is the best corner in the league decides to take a play off and basically shrug at not having safety help and get burned deep. So I thought, oh, okay, this is really everything that could go wrong is going to go wrong. But Stafford hangs in there. I mean, if I think MVP voting, if I'm not mistaken, takes place at the end of the season. So the votes, I believe, are already cast.
Yeah, I think they are.
So
I wish they were.
Well, if they went at least to the Pro Bowl week, you'd probably say it's pretty clear that the most valuable player in football this year is Cooper Kupp. Because
I said that, Dan. I said it on the show.
2 of the best plays I've ever seen a receiver make. People don't underestimated how good the first play on that drive that he made was. Not just Bucks call a terrible blitz call that cost him a season basically, but they had no timeouts. There's 35 seconds left. Stafford gets a weird sack where he just kind of lays there and the team kind of wanders around while the clock is running and they're like kind of look like they're going to let it go to overtime. And he runs like a 15-yard out route where he shakes the DB at the top of the route so badly that the guy falls down.
Yeah.
And because he falls down, when Kupp catches the ball, he's able to backpedal 4 steps and fall out of bounds.
The out of bounds. It was unbelievable.
Saves them 15 seconds of time, which is enough time for them to complete the pass, get the spike with 4 seconds to go, and kick the game-winning field goal.
We saw the week before this is what the Dallas Cowboys couldn't do their first game, and this exact drive that cost them. And then it was a great win. But take me through the play, the Kupp catch, like. I mean, what are you thinking at this moment?
Losing my mind, losing my mind completely. Like I don't know what's
just like happening. You said with Brady. The one thing you couldn't do was turn Kupp loose in the secondary, and
it's a mind-boggling defensive call there, right? And I mean, we can get into it with the Bills as well. With the defensive coordinators calling plays. Like to me. I saw somebody on Twitter this week go, hey, look, the Bucks call a blitz and they get torched and it's a bad call. The Bills play too conservative. They get torched. It's a bad call. So you can't really win. But to me, it seems like if you're setting a nickel blitz off the edge on what could be the last play of the game, you probably say to that guy, don't blitz if the guy who's across from you is Cooper Kupp. If it was Van Jefferson, you might go, whatever, come off the edge. But don't leave the best player in the league on a safety. And I mean, I'm glad they did. Really, I'm thankful for that. So,
I mean, just to me, I mean, just overall, how do you feel about? I mean, Stafford, the receiving core, Akers looks great. I mean, he's a kid who hadn't played enough games. The fumbles were just lack of the. I mean, and Dominic Sue has done that to a lot of guys. The one on the goal line is a freak fumble. Like those things happen. I felt terrible for him. Like he's really wearing it, but his explosions really help. The lack of that safety, I mean, Fuller being out is just is bad.
And yet Eric Weddle, who's 37 years old, who's 2 years out of playing football, is he's not playing big time, but he's doing a good job.
He's a smart guy, stay in the way. Yeah.
And what's really amazing is Nick Scott, who's showed up in the secondary, who was like a special teamer for the Rams for most of the past few years.
Hey, that's a sign.
It's asked to come in. He's a great. He's just walked right in. He picks off Brady. He goes over the top of Gronkowski to get a pick. In the first half, he's played great filling in. The worry of the safety position is basically now like that's fine. Everybody else just rest up and get healthy.
Yeah, and credit to the Rams. One more play to just ask you how you felt. The Weddle hit, the Weddle penalty. I did not know the dead ball unnecessary hit rule. When that happens, you think it's over. Like that's it. Game's over, correct?
Yeah, I thought we were screwed at that point. But to me, it was the right call.
It was
enforced the right way. It's a weird rule in that sense that it because the ball hits the ground. Like if he had tipped the ball up in the air and it was still floating and he got
then penalty.
So it's a 15-yard penalty and a first down, but it's a dead ball foul after that.
So,
So
and I'll say that I'll say this too. What a way to like shoot down all the Tom Brady, the game is rigged fans, because if they come up and they just call that the typical late hit and give Brady the
yeah,
15 yards, 90% of the people are like, oh, okay, it makes sense.
yeah,
Like,
he
so for
didn't
them
he
to
didn't get
actually,
it going his way. I mean, he got a 15-yard
yeah,
unsportsmanlike penalty for
oh, that
tripping
was
out a ref,
great.
and they said
That
that
was
was the
great.
first unsportsmanlike conduct penalty he's taken in 22 years of his career,
That's awesome.
which is
That's
mind
awesome.
blowing to think that that's even possible.
Oh
But
man, what a game! I'm
yeah,
glad it worked out for you. It hard to watch, but it was also fun to
oh
watch.
yeah,
And that's my takeaway too. I actually think the Rams looked really good and had some of the just the most untimed, like you say, huge impactful turnovers a
yeah.
team can have,
You
and
lose 4 fumbles in any football game, you probably
you
should lose
should
it.
lose that
Yeah,
game. But they
yeah,
didn't. They also played the best too. I mean, credit to Brady.
sure,
He did what he could, but they got to him. The defense did their job. I thought the
yeah.
Rams defense played probably better than it looks
Oh,
on
they
the
played pretty
stat
good
sheet.
considering the offense, gave up horrible field position multiple times in a
Yeah,
row and basically hung them out to dry after they played great.
yeah.
So, I mean, yeah,
But
that's
I
turned out
think
all
tur
right.
and here's what we said the show before last. We talked about this game was all about Sean McVay. To me,
Mhm.
I thought the team remained calm. I thought they played good. I thought the game
Yeah,
plan was good. I can't blame him for fumbles. He
right.
you had timeouts left when you needed them, like all these things. So I thought McVay, that was the game. I thought him and Stafford validated
Yeah.
everything. I really do.
Yeah, he's turned it around for me a little bit. The fact that in 2 of the last 3, I mean, 3 games in a row now, they have played ridiculously good football in the
Yeah.
first half, and I mean, the Cardinals game, the Arizona was pretty much just a team lost out of its place and we're ready to go home for the year,
Yeah.
but, I mean, they blow the week
But
18
still,
with
you got to
the
win that
Niners.
game.
That's what they play good in the second half, but, you play a terrible second half against the Niners, you play a terrible second half against Tampa Bay, you know, one turns into a win, one turns into a loss,
Yeah.
but he did do a better job of keeping them level-headed. The Niners game, when they blew that lead in the second half, they looked like how I felt on Sunday, which is
Me
something's in the
too.
process of happening and we can't stop it from
Yeah.
happening. So
I thought
they looked a lot more level this past week. I
if
think.
I can say something that I know we talk about all these intangibles and things that matter. I think playing the early day game,
Mm,
you know what I mean, really helped take some. I think if that's at night and it's different to everybody and the
yeah,
crowd might be a little more tuned into it. I really think that the pressure might have built a little bit more. I think it probably
sure.
felt to them more like a stand. And I know that sounds crazy, but it felt like if anybody loses their shit at any moment right there, the Rams are in trouble. But
Yeah,
credit to them, credit to them. So that was great. And that was just one of 4 great games that
yeah,
weekend. So I know everybody, this show is going to come out on a Friday. Everybody's either they watch the highlights, they've listened to all the podcasts.
right.
So I just kind of want to get there's no way I can let you out of here without asking, what
Sure.
was your takeaway from what is widely considered maybe the best weekend of playoff football that
Yeah.
we've ever had? What was a huge takeaway that you had?
It's definitely one of the best weekends of playoff football I can remember in my lifetime. There was a few things. The Bengals, I mean, I'd watch. That's a team that for a long time we might be seeing them in a similar spot than they are right now. I thought Tennessee looked like a team that needs to make a decision about Ryan Tannehill as
I
to
had
whether or
them.
not
I
they
had
have
them. I
plateaued
actually,
with him.
I Dan, I
So
actually voted them as my worst loss of the playoffs because of
yeah,
they're in limbo.
yeah. This whole, my buddy's again, I said he's a Titans fan, and I say to him like, I think you guys need to make a decision on whether or not this
Mhm.
guy is the guy who turned you into a winning team, but I don't know if he's the guy who's going to take you all the way after 3 years in a row of really kind of suspect playoff performances.
You
But I mean,
can't
the
let
Bills
him turn
Chiefs
into
game,
Kirk Cousins.
yes, exactly. He's there's sort of again that's sort of that championship plateau where you can't get over it with a certain guy. But the Bills Chiefs game, one of the games of the year, if not maybe the game of the year so far. And everybody after it goes, 2 things, right? Is the overtime rules, which
Yeah.
I think for 15 years it's been clear. I mean, back when it was sudden death period,
Thank
everyone
you
said
for
we need to have another possession, and then they went halfway with it and said, "Well, you get another possession, but only if you kick a field goal and a touchdown wins." And it's just now it's at the point where you think, just go all the way. Each team gets the ball once.
each team
Period.
is guaranteed a possession.
Yes. Yeah.
Doesn't that solve it?
At the very least for the playoffs. At the very least for the playoffs.
Yeah,
Like the
I think that
NHL with
happens, right?
shootouts in the regular season, but they don't do shootouts in the playoffs. They just play until someone scores. Baseball is experimenting with this guy on second base thing, but again, only for the regular season.
Here's the thing about baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball's issue is how do we change it to make more people watch? And football is like, how do we satisfy what was it? I believe every game, roughly the average was like 35 million people. How do we satisfy the 35 million people that watched? But no, you're right, and that was a big thing. And I told everybody, I'm like, calm down. I remember when it was sudden death. That was terrible. Especially now with these offenses now, you couldn't do sudden death. Like if you win the coin flip, you're winning. Anybody can get a a field goal now. I think you in the college rules, that's ridiculous. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's not fun to watch, but and then what I'll say, here's what happened. What we wanted to see was Josh Allen get the ball back. I don't think we cared as much that it ended on a touchdown. I think we cared that we don't get to see Josh Allen until next year, because I keep saying I honestly think he played the two best games back to back, maybe in playoff history, especially for a guy that's not playing anymore.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of the outrage, but just guarantee the other team a possession. Sure. That's it.
It's weird because I mean, you saw
wins a game.
Exactly. You saw the thing that said that like in the playoffs, the people who are winning the coin toss are actually winning like 75-80% of the games that are being played in the playoffs. So you think, that's all the statistics you need. The coin toss is still winning the games. Playoffs are an exhausting experience. Defenses are toast. It would have been better to see the Bills. And then, I mean, what kind of game are we talking about right now? If the Bills get the ball back and the same thing happens and they score a touchdown, and then guess what? The Chiefs get the ball back and then they get to go again. And then
there's the problem.
Death, right?
Yeah. How do you fix that problem? Like you also just can't keep giving the ball, because those, honestly, that game might have went on forever with those two quarterbacks, and those defenses were done. If the Bills would have won the coin toss, I agree, they would have won too, because both defenses were done. But I would also say, and I know that this doesn't affect the rules going forward, if you're the Bills and there's 14 seconds on the clock, 13. I'm sorry, 13 seconds on the clock.
Seconds, yeah.
I just, this specific game, I can't hear it. But shout out to Kansas City Chiefs fans. They they got up a donation for the visiting team for the Buffalo Bills. They donated to a children's hospital, and the last thing I heard, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's over $100,000 now, I believe. Yeah,
that's awesome. I think that needs to become, like, across the board, a thing that NFL fans do, because I honestly think that is one of the coolest, no downside things that I've ever heard of, is donating to the losing teams, whatever charity they choose. Right. So if anything, if the NFL, they worry about all these rule changes, make that a rule change. Right. Just be like, here's the charity. You get to watch.
Here's the link. Just go click. But you asked, what my takeaway from it is, right? And the obviously the game of the week was Chiefs Bills, and all the talking heads are coming back to is this idea of, well, if that game showed anything, it was that, this is a quarterback, and the quarterback is the most important thing.
He's referring to me, everybody.
Well, you weren't just the one, but everybody sort of a lot of people came around to this, it's all about the quarterback. And it is. You're not winning a Super Bowl without a quarterback. But to me, all I could think at the end was, this is pretty clearly an indication of the classic adage. Defense is the most important damn thing, because you can have a great quarterback like Josh Allen, but Josh Allen didn't even get a chance to throw the ball in overtime. Josh Allen's defense gave up 2 touchdowns in the blink of an eye, gave up 50 yards in 13 seconds, which is an unfathomable pace. What cost them that game wasn't a quarterback. It was bad defense again and again. The Niners have knocked off 2 championship contenders with great defense. The Bengals played defense and chipped their way out of really talented offense to get a win.
Bengals defense played great. Shout out to defense. Great.
The Bills Chiefs game to me just indicated that what it really is a defensive league still.
Dan, here's what people will tell you: the Titans got 9 sacks, brother. So some
it's
people
both really. It's really both, isn't it, Jeff? It's because you can get 9 sacks, but if your QB sucks, it's not going to happen. So
if we were sitting at a bar drinking your favorite Irish whiskey, and you brought this up to me, here's what I would say: if you switch quarterbacks in the Bengals Titans games, who wins?
Oh, the Titans by like 45 points.
So
right,
you get where I'm going with here.
Okay, I know, but really, I mean, I think to boil it down just to being, well, you got to have a quarterback. Like, yeah, of course, because name me a team that's won with a terrible quarterback.
Right.
Out of 20 Super Bowl winners, you get 1 or 2.
There's not very many.
And when they do, they're carried by a ridiculously good defense. You know,
Can we do a
that's
show
the thing.
about worst quarterbacks to win a championship? Let's do that. We might do that sometime. Super Bowl
First
week.
one off the top of your head. Worst quarterback to ever win.
Worst to win one. Man, it's hard not to say Dilfer, but he played such a good game.
That's what I mean.
He played such a good game.
I was gonna say Trent Dilfer probably as well.
I'd have to go back and like I didn't really get to watch the ones in the 60s and 70s. No, wait a minute. Now he played great. Hear me out. It's before your time. Well, it's right at your time.
Okay.
Jeff Hostetler for the New York Giants in 1990.
Okay. He was a backup though.
He was a backup.
He was doing the Nick Foles thing. He was filling in for an injured starter.
Ooh,
right?
shout out to and you know what is Nick? Okay, here's what.
Maybe
Super Bowl
Nick
week. We're gonna
Foles.
talk about this. Super Bowl week. We're doing
great. There, we'll
Nick,
do it on Super Bowl.
is Nick Foles better than Trent Dilfer? Save that question for Super Bowl week when Dan comes back on because I like that. I like where we're going with this.
Okay. Okay.
No, it was great, and I agree. Those two quarterbacks are freaks too. I think I can meet you in the middle somewhere, and by the end of that game, I would say cardio. Cardio is what the most important thing is because those defenses were.
Well, hey, we said last week when we were talking about what we thought, you picked the Bills. You thought the Bills would outlast them. I said I wanted to pick the Bills, but I just couldn't as long as that game was.
And I think we were both right.
City. You know, I thought that was a game that I just thought if it comes down to this last minute thing, it's just going to be a home field thing for the Chiefs to pull that out.
And shout out to coaching staffs too. At the end of that game, I cannot remember the exact time left. There were 6 timeouts left in the last 2 minutes of that game.
They all had their timeouts for that, and 25
is the
gets scored in the last 2 minutes. Is like,
when these teams like Dallas fart away these timeouts on trying not to get a false start penalty or something stupid early, this is that's the result. Like you should have timeouts with the last 2 minutes, and that was huge. It was a fun game.
Absolutely.
And I will say this, that we talk about exploiting defenses. I don't want to talk too much about the Packers 49ers game.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers didn't do that. The 49ers gave Aaron Rodgers chances to win that game. He did not take advantage of them. Josh Allen took advantage of him and Mahomes both took advantage of every mistake, open receiver. Like, because every play in today's game, like somebody's going to be open. Like that's just the way it is. And it's whether your quarterback can find the guy. And Rodgers didn't. So like that was the
his
difference.
Performance was
terrible.
Beyond, to me it was beyond any. I didn't expect him to be that disappointing, and Devontae Adams too, and it's probably a little bit of an extension of Green Bay's coaching staff, which is I think probably the reason why you won't see Aaron Rodgers wear that uniform again. Is that all I saw Devontae Adams do all game was run 3-yard out routes.
Yes.
They just run these quick timing, quick throws to him. I'm like, well, you get a first down or two every now and then, but they did nothing to make the
and Rodgers tried to force it to him, and Rodgers just kept trying to force it to him.
It seemed to be that the guys that made the difference for them all season in key situations, outside of obviously their big three, Lazard and Valdez Scantling, they just disappeared, and the game plan didn't seem to involve anybody. Aaron Rodgers looked like he was just kind of like his classic body language and like, things aren't going well for me kind of attitude for him. And you leave the Niners a chance. I said my prediction of that game last week was it's going to be close to the end, and then Green Bay will just show their talent and pull out a late score to make it wide. They just forgot to do that. So you get what you get, really.
Yeah, and if you keep a game close and you get a block punt, like you get to play all facets of the game. Here's something I don't like. Like, I understand special teams isn't as impactful as it used to be, but also I don't like people acting like they almost act like a block punt now is a fumble or a mistake. I'm like, no, that's a play. That's
play.
That's guys, like they have a game plan. If you ever play special teams, it's like you block this guy, that guy blocks this guy. You go at this angle. It's angles. Not getting penalties. So a lot of people act like almost like it was a mistake by Green Bay to get a punt block. I'm like, no, that's not how this worked. The 49ers, and I say it every show I do. We'll talk about it here in a minute. It's a fist fight. Like they are going to keep getting up. They're going to keep fighting. They're going to keep scrapping. And that's what they did. I really enjoyed that because I thought that exposed a one team that was more prepared, the more they cared more, was physically prepared. Like I thought it rewarded the better full team rather than just the quarterback. That's what I liked about that game.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think exactly that. Green Bay was looking to just go, well, when is this guy going to win us the game?
yeah,
And
and
San
it's so
Francisco thought, we're gonna claw you to the very end
yep,
every way we can. And I mean, Jeff, just comprehend what we saw. One of the great quarterbacks of this generation, having one of the best seasons of his career, probably going to be MVP, got beaten by a
no
team
point.
blocking a punt for a touchdown with 4 minutes left in the
Yeah,
game
yeah.
in their field. It's
And Garoppolo tried to throw the
yeah,
game again. Garoppolo has a wide open play to win a game and
yeah.
misses it. It's just
Oh man,
it was that's why I said that was the one of the few times like so young football fans especially, this is what football used to look like. It was like who
yeah,
can get out of this alive, low scoring, quarterbacks are just okay.
yeah.
Like, if you're spoiled by the Josh Allens and the Mahomes of the world, you have no idea what it was like in the 80s when Bernie Kosar was going to the AFC
Hey,
Championship
look, the
game.
Bills Chiefs game was a wicked game to watch because of the spectacle and the offense and all stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember texting my buddy during that Packers game when the skies opened up and it started to snow, and I said, "This is an iconic
Yes.
scene unfolding. This
Absolutely.
is Lambeau Field in January at night in the snow.
Yep.
This is this is like literally backyard football fantasy right here. This is
Yeah.
an absolutely legendary scene to unfold. And the Packers, this is your thing, and
You begged for this. You fought
yeah,
for this. And I
yep,
say, now I am on record, like, actually, everybody just go back and listen to all my shows and give me likes. But
do that.
I'm on record several times of saying this that I thought the Packers were better off to not get home field advantage in these playoffs because I
Yeah,
thought they would rather. I think Rodgers would much rather go to like New Orleans and play in a
yeah,
dome and then steal a win or go to Tampa Bay in the sunshine. I really thought that all season.
yeah.
And I think I was right. I think the 49ers were like, we do not care.
Yeah,
You know,
tougher
we
team.
don't
Tougher they
yeah,
were built the Niners are built for that, and I'm sure we're about to
yep,
get into that exactly coming
yeah.
up here, so
So, yeah, that was fun. So, yeah, so that's last week. So we'll
yeah,
get into this week. So we kinda I did basically the question I had for you, we got the 2 games coming up. We got the Rams, we got the 49ers. I am not gonna ask you to pick a winner because A, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm
right.
saying? But and then we have the Chiefs. We have Cincinnati going to Kansas City and playing, which is it's what a weird game. You know what I mean? But when the veteran quarterback is like a few years older than the young guy coming in to
Yeah,
take his spot, fascinating game. So we'll start. Well, I want to start with Cincinnati, Kansas City. My question
yep,
was to you when you start watching this game as a fan, you got the TV on the first 10 minutes of the game, what are you looking at to for each team to give away like this is what they need to do or that's what they need to do or they're in trouble, you know what I mean? So each team, what are you looking at? Was it Kansas City, Cincinnati first?
I think Kansas City, that game's gonna come down to whether or not Kansas City gets in a rhythm with their offense in the early on, but they're such a big play offense, even if they struggle a little bit early on, they're so likely to break one, even into the second half if they're struggling, but Cincinnati's pass rush getting home and if they're back end, Jesse Bates at safety for the Bengals is turning into arguably a top 2 safety in the
That's
entire
why their coach is interviewing
yeah.
for head coaching jobs.
He's a big reason for that. He played out of his mind against Tennessee, and I think similar to what we were saying about the Bills with the Chiefs is that back end, that safety play and the defensive backs are really going to make the difference. So if they're able to sort of stymie the rhythm of Kansas City and force a couple of 3 and outs and then sort of control the ball on their offense, I wouldn't doubt Cincinnati. I mean, they did beat Kansas City like less than a month
Oh
ago.
yeah,
So
not very long ago.
I'd be looking out for whether or not their defense actually gets that. But if Kansas City starts being able to move the ball, get J.D. McKissick involved and stretch him, he's turning into a real X factor for their offense and all that. If they can sort of confuse the Bengals defense, I think it could turn into a landslide for Kansas City. So I mean, Cincinnati's really got to bring something different, bring Jesse Bates down, and sort of keep an eye on Travis Kelce and keep them from blowing the top off. And that's the only way I think if you can steal a few possessions back, you've got a chance. But if that isn't the case early and often, then it might be it might be a runaway for the Chiefs.
Yeah, so I'm so with you on the Kansas City thing. My note was if Kansas City can just play on schedule, like if the first 10 minutes they're just like it's not about Mahomes running around and making these fantastic plays that we know he will make and can make. It's if he just sits in the pocket and is just taking chunks of yards, like 7 or 8 yards of play, that's when I'm like, oh, okay, the Bengals are in huge trouble if they're on schedule. Uh So as far as the Bengals go, to compound on that, everybody's watching their offense. It's
Yeah,
the Jamar Chase and Burrow show. I mean, what just if you're the coach and you're drawing up the game plan and you're like, everybody knows Cincinnati's got nothing to lose. Do you try to play it by the book like you've been doing and trust like you did with Tennessee that it'll work out,
sure.
or is this throw caution to the wind? Try to jump up on them. Like we've seen a
Yeah,
couple teams do that with Kansas City over the past few years. The
yeah.
Titans have jumped up on them. The freaking it's hard to remember. At one point, the Houston Texans were a playoff team. They jumped all over them. I'm as Coach Dan. What do you tell Cincinnati?
Well, Cincinnati's for one, recognize that you're playing a team with a pretty horrible defense. I mean, they're giving up. I think I read a stat this week that said if you remove the game against Pittsburgh, they're giving up 30 points a game over the past 5 or 6 games, which is terrible. I mean, it's a defense league. Sure, I still think that, but Kansas City doesn't really have one that effectively plays. But so I think if you're Cincinnati, don't be afraid to take a shot, but also don't forget to control the game. You got a great running back in Joe Mixon. Their offensive line's a little suspect, but running the ball,
You
it's
think?
not work. Yeah, but running the ball when that's the thing, right? You're not going to sack the quarterback if you're running the football. So I think they have to insist on running the ball with Mixon, even if it's not successful to the way you'd want it to be. Don't feel like you have to try to go over to Jamar Chase on every play because that might be forcing
I
issues.
worry, and I don't think Burrow. I think with Higgins, I
Yeah,
think that Cincinnati. This game, let's be honest, this game's all on Burrow. If he
sure,
spreads the ball around and finds the open guy, just like Allen did, the,
yeah,
the holes are going to be there. The mistakes are going to be there.
sure.
Is Burrow, can he stay upright and get that done? This is going to
Running
be
the
a
ball and running a bit of a play action offense off of
yeah,
it is really important in eliminating that and finding a way to I mean, you're playing with a bad O line. You're not going to suddenly get a better O line between now and Sunday. So
right.
finding play calls that negate pass rush, quick screens, any sort of maybe get him on,
Yeah.
get Mixon on the outside. You got playmakers, but it's not going to matter if the quarterback's on his ass all
It
day.
is
So
it is true though. They have good yards after the catch guys. That's huge against Kansas City, and
it's
like you say,
guys like
getting the ball to
CJ
you.
Uzoma, like is a guy who might go off for 3 touchdowns if you're
Yep.
not paying
I
attention.
I think the same thing that this happened last week. I mean,
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills got I forget his name already.
Gabriel
Davis.
Davis, one of the best playoff games ever that will be
That's
lost
ever
in
been
history,
played.
unfortunately.
So they take advantage of the weakness, and that's the key. There's a lot of you can watch last year's Super Bowl tape on how Buccaneers attacked Mahomes, and you can watch last week's game on how they attacked the defense.
Sure.
There's a formula out there. So bonus question for this game, then we'll get to the Rams. What the fourth quarter starts? What does the point differential have to be for you to Kansas City? I think that we know they can come back.
Yeah.
Cincinnati has to be within how many points and when the fourth quarter starts for you to go, it's still a game.
I think Cincinnati's got to be within just one score.
One
It's
score.
kind of the same philosophy I would say with the Niners last week is that when you got a good defense and a good pass rush, you're a one score game is always winnable because being tied at the end means you're being down a score means you just got to tie it, and
Yeah.
being tied at the end means now it's a time possession thing. It's who's going to have the ball last. Can you force them to run a 3-and-out? Kansas City airs the ball out a lot, so that stops the clock a lot if they're not
Yeah.
successful completing the passes. So I think as long as it's a one score game, if you're Cincinnati, a one score game going to the fourth quarter for you is ideal, is an ideal scenario because now it's anybody's ball game. They're playing with house money. So for them to have a chance to be within striking distance in the fourth quarter of an AFC championship
Yeah.
game is pretty much as good as you're going to be able to hope for, I think. And that being said, I've been betting against them all year. So
7-point spread
wrong.
for a conference championship game.
Yeah. I mean,
And here's the thing:
surprising, but
if you're Cincinnati, you got all the fake motivation in the world. Like you literally have every advantage that you could want.
yep.
You're the away team. You're there. Nobody. You could play that nobody thinks will win. Like, well,
Yep.
I wouldn't say nobody, but -7's pretty big, or +7. They're +7.
Sure.
Just all these things. So it really is. And you got Burrow who doesn't really care about anything. I'm not even sure. Like he's really doesn't get caught up in it. All four of these quarterbacks really
Yeah.
are pretty mentally strong. Really enjoying it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
For
All
sure.
right, here we go. So I'm
Oh
not
man.
going to ask you to pick a winner of this game. I'm going to ask you the same question. You're going to be watching the Rams 49ers
Yep,
intently from SoFi
yep,
Stadium this week. Um, what are you looking for at the beginning of the game that's going to make you? Nothing's going to make you feel better, but
right.
what's Dan going to say? Okay, they listened to me all week. They
Yep,
got my emails. They
yeah.
got these. They got those weird. They got these tweets that I've been sending. Like they figured it out. What do the Rams need to do to make you feel the most comfortable possible about this game?
I gotta see their defensive front seven do something that has been outside the mold of the 3 years of playing San Francisco. I mean, this game could easily go the way it did on the Monday night game. If San Francisco runs a 8-minute drive with 16 plays and a touchdown at the end, running the ball every down, getting 4 yards of carry, it's gonna be a short night for Rams fans and for the team. The thing they need to realize is there's a big, I don't know if you've caught this or any Rams or Niners fans this week will have seen this, that there's this big debate about the seats in the stadium and the ticket sales and who's
Yeah.
being allowed to buy tickets. The Rams team, if I'm Sean McVay and the coaching staff, from the beginning of the week, I'd be operating on the presumption that this is a road game. This is absolutely going to be a road game.
Yeah.
It's going to be a majority
Ooh, I
Niners
like that.
fans. I would, if they come in unprepared for a silent count, unprepared for communication issues, they're toast, because it's pretty clearly going to be a San
It
Francisco.
kinda it kinda happened, San Francisco kinda did that in Dallas. That game
Yeah,
was a
they
little
do it
like that.
everywhere they go. That's one of the biggest fan bases in North America are San Francisco fans,
Yeah.
and Silicon Valley and is filled with Niners fans and a lot of people with a lot of money who are not phased by spending out the ass for, especially for an NFC Championship game. So
Yeah.
prepare for it to be a grinding game. If the Rams can't control the line of scrimmage, specifically on their defense, it's going to be trouble. And offensively, the same strategy that they've been running successfully this year, the same thing I said they need to do last week. They got to run the ball, even if it's Cam Akers getting 2.5 yards to carry. If he runs for 25 carries for 65 yards, that to me is actually a good sign, because it means that they will continue to keep the defense honest, continue to allow Stafford to run the play action and get the route concepts that are going to get guys like Cooper Kupp open. And that's the only way they win. You're not going to force San Francisco out of their identity. They have a set identity, and they're going to come out with that identity. And you're going to have to take them head on in order to beat them, because they're not going to go 5 wide with Jimmy Garoppolo and start slinking. They're going to grind it out with Debo and Elijah Mitchell, and that's their identity. So don't have any misconceptions about what you're walking into, is what I would tell them.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this. I like this matchup. I like this game. And it stinks because I really do like both of these teams. When we did our preview show to start the season, we talked about how good the NFC West was going to be. We were not wrong. I mean, we've got it's down to, and so I'm kind of exactly with you, and I'll say the opposite. So I'll give the keys to San Francisco. It's the exact same thing you said, but in Bizarro world. Can their offense and the way they run, the misdirection, the 22 personnel, the 20, the 21 personnel, can they nullify the Rams pass rush? Can they,
Yeah.
can they nullify Von Miller? Because if you're running a bunch of swing passes, a lot of plays in the flats,
Yeah.
it kind of nullifies that Leo position that
Well,
Miller
it also
plays.
doesn't force passing down yardage,
Right.
which is what the Rams struggle with the Niners, is that they so consistently get 4, 5, 6 yards of carry. Every time Debo Samuel has a ball in his hands,
Oh,
you add 3 yards to the end of the run, because he always fights an
yes.
extra few yards out. So, I mean, what you have to do is you can't get into 2nd and 4. You need 2nd and 8. You can't get into 3rd and 2. You need 3rd and 6 and beyond.
Yep.
You need to force them into passing downs, because the Niners are happy
Yep.
to run for 3, 4 yards of carry every down and do a 14-play drive if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
So being stout up front, the most important players in this game to me aren't Donald and Miller. It's Greg Gaines and Ashawn Robinson in the middle of their defensive line.
Yes.
Those guys are big. Those are 650 pounds of man right there. Those guys are going to have to be the entire crux of the defense, I think. It's a scary prospect as a Rams fan. So.
No. I totally agree with everything you're saying, and I think it's going to be a great game. I think that I will say this. I think the Rams have. I really think that what I saw from Beckham last week made me feel really good. I mean, he is totally integrated into the system now and knows what's up. And when he's engaged and knows his part, it just makes the job easier for Kupp, and Kupp is almost impossible anyway. And then I think Jefferson's playing great.
Yeah.
Higby,
Higby is a
is
real underlying. I
it
mean,
is
last time they played, he had 2 touchdowns and a
yeah.
handful of catches. So
Yeah,
he's
and
been
and
that
a credit to
there.
Stafford. Again, we
Yeah.
talked about you gotta find the open guy. And
Well,
then what I would
hey,
say
same as Cincinnati. How do you the last time every time we play the Niners, that front 4 gets home. So how do you
yeah,
protect Stafford? How
yep,
do you give him a little insulation so he can actually throw the football without running for his life and get
yep,
into the rhythm? It's all gonna rely on that. If San
yeah.
Francisco controls the line of scrimmage, gets home on a four-man pass rush and runs the ball well, that's a recipe to success anytime, anywhere.
And something and a huge advantage. I mean, there's so many advantages, but a huge advantage that I really like is I like Stafford in short yardage and in these big plays that Garoppolo like
Yeah.
depends. I won't say depends, but like their offense is more it, it's good and it's bad
Yeah.
that you can it can be Samuel or it can be it just any amount of
Sure.
players. It might be a running back, it might be whatever. But I like that the Rams can be in the 10-yard line and drop back, and you have to worry about Stafford scanning the field and making
Right.
that one throw that he can do. So, but what I want to see from the Rams in the first 10 minutes, I just want to see them run their offense, and you alluded to this on schedule. Like I want to
Yeah.
see Akers. If at the end of the first quarter, the Rams have scored an offensive touchdown and punted
Yeah.
but yet they've got yardage. Nobody's frazzled. I don't want it to get manic. I think if it gets manic like it did the second
Yes.
half versus Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
San Francisco is going to thrive because then Fred Warner and those guys are just going to be like, all right, here we go, boys.
Oh, and
You
the
know,
crowd starts
yeah,
getting into it, and their
all
defense
hell's going
starts
to break
playing
loose.
physical. You're gonna suddenly feel like you're
Yeah.
playing, at Candlestick in,
Yes.
1985. It's gonna feel that way on the field, and San Francisco is
Yep.
gonna feed on that. They are
Absolutely.
their motivation is pure chaos.
Yes. That's
They wanna beat up the pretty boy Rams with all the fancy
yep.
players in their fancy stadium. They thrive on that. So not giving them that excuse to do that is
Absolutely.
game number 1. So
I said the best thing for football fans is what you're describing. But
yeah,
if I'm a Rams fan, I want to see a boring, like
yeah,
just ho hum. It looks like week 4 game. I think because that's when I think the talent takes over, and I don't think San Francisco has what it takes. But if it becomes a WWE match instead of a boxing match,
yeah.
it's all everything's if if 49ers are even within probably 10, but if they're within, a touchdown going in the second half, it's going to get nuts.
Yeah,
It is
and
going to get nuts. The
if
pressure is
it's
going to start
20 to
building.
13 going into the 4th quarter for the
Oh,
Rams,
oh,
I'm gonna need numerous shirts to sweat through because you think I was bad last week. This game
oh,
beyond all because it's San Fran if this had been Green Bay we were going into, I'd have a different mindset, but the history, the attitude, the
yeah,
fan bases here with San Francisco and the Rams,
yeah.
there's so much more riding on this than just a Super Bowl appearance. This is probably the most meaningful game the Rams have played beyond even the Super Bowl a few years ago. I think this is the biggest game they're going to play
Oh, wow.
in decades. So
Yeah.
this is a franchise altering game for both teams, really. So
It's just
it's tough,
yeah, this is the beginning of this version of the Rams. This is the end of this version of the 49ers.
right?
It's really one of my favorite games in a long time. It honestly is. And it sucks that I actually don't I actually like both teams. I really do. I will fully open. I'm pulling for the Rams. I've
Hey,
pulled for them all year. I like them. Genuinely like them. You've helped me like them more, but I'm rooting for the Rams, not against anybody.
I would love San Francisco if they were any other team in the
If
league.
they weren't
Well,
San Francisco, don't you
barring
hate
like
that?
Seattle or so. Like if I was watching the Philadelphia Eagles come in with this team, I'd be going, "That's a lot of respect for these guys. I like a lot of them."
Yeah.
But it's just San Francisco at all.
Well,
So just
at
you have
heart,
to
you're
pick winners, though. You got to
at
pick.
heart,
Winners. We have to
at heart,
declare,
you're an
don't we?
American. Yeah, at heart, you're an American college football fan. You just don't realize it yet. You're
And you can't like
essentially
your rivals. You have to
yeah,
hate your rivals, of course.
no matter what. All right, Dan, that was awesome, man. We're all
Quick picks
pulling for
before we go. Quick picks before you go. You must declare.
oh, I have Rams Kansas City. I have Rams Kansas City.
I actually unbiased, trying really hard to put bias aside. I have the same games as well. I think
Yeah,
it's the Super Bowl we deserved 3 years ago coming out finally.
I do too, because I still think that the Rams should have won that Super Bowl. So just everybody listening, Dan has already promised to come back for Super Bowl week,
Yep.
Super Bowl week.
Yep.
Regardless, regardless of the outcome. But we're all pulling for you, man. You're one of the best. So everybody, go check out Dan. Give him your Twitter handle, Dan.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm on Twitter at disinformed Dan. I
Yeah.
put my idiocy up front. You can also find me on the fucking A podcast, FUCKINEH podcast, comedy podcast every week with my buddy Matt, and the Started Goods podcast. So this week coming up, we're talking about NFTs. So
if fascinating stuff. If you're like me and don't know what an NFT is, look it up. If you do know, still listen to it. Really, really good stuff coming up. I got a sneak preview. Dan did a show with who'd you do the show with, Dan? Let's give a shout out to them.
I just did the Drinkopedia podcast.
Drinkopedia podcast. Shout out
Jason.
to them.
Yeah, Matt, Jason, and Audra do that, and it's one of my favorite shows.
It's really good.
I got shit-faced hammered and explained NFT as best as I could. So check that out wherever you get your podcasts. That's actually it's a really, really fun show.
Yeah, it is. Support the pod family, man. We're all trying out there. We're all putting great content out. Dan, thanks again. We'll see you in a week or two. It's up to you. Everybody else will see you soon. This was Jeff Needs Sports. This is the Off Ball Network, and we are out.